So we walked through an example of what happens when the Fed buys or sells securities or bonds from banks. But the Fed can't force the public or financial institutions to buy or sell bonds. However, it can make bonds more or less attractive to hold. So, for example, if the Fed buys, that means that the demand for bonds is going to go up. In the bond market, let's suppose there is a $50,000 Treasury bond that pays 6% annual interest. So that means the coupon rate, the printed rate, is 6%. You are guaranteed when you turn that bond back in, you'll get your $50,000 plus 6% back. And the face value is $50,000, all right? So the annual coupon payment, so the amount that you will make every year off of this bond, is the coupon rate times the face value. So it's 6% times 50,000 or $3,000. So if this is, for example, a 10-year bond, every year you can turn in a coupon, and it's literally, imagine a piece of paper, and then over on the side, there's the coupons that you just tear off and you will go turn it in. So this is the famous bearer bond, not bear bond like BEAR, but bearer, BEARER, which means whoever bears the bond, whoever walks in with the bond, they get the money. So you see this all the time in movies and stuff where they'll go, oh, we're going to go steal bearer bonds. And the reason for that is because unlike a stock, which is registered to a specific person, the bearer bond, whoever has it can claim it. So what you can do is you tear off these little coupons on the edge and you go in and you go, here's my coupon, so give me $3,000. So that's the way that works. So suppose the Fed now wants to increase M1, which is the money supply, and ease credit conditions. So that means they want the interest rate to go down. So they're looking for easy money. So what's going to happen? So here we have a graph. So this is the quantity of bonds. This is the price of bonds. So right initially we've got, here is the supply of bonds, and this lower line is the original demand for bonds. All right. So at this intersection here, you've got the bond that cost, for example, $45,000, and this is the number of bonds that will be demanded. But the Fed's going to buy bonds. That means they're going to increase the demand for bonds. So we know if the demand increases, the line is going to shift to the right. So if the line shifts to the right and we were here at Q1, P1, well, actually I have it Q0 and P0. Now we're going to be here, and it's going to be Q1 and P1. The price has gone from 45 to 48. So the price of the bond goes up. If the price of the bond goes up, the yield goes down. So the price of a bond and the yield of a bond are inversely related. They move in opposite directions. So how do you figure that out? You take the bond current yield equals the annual coupon payment, which we already figured out is $3,000, divided by the price paid for the bond. So not the coupon value. So remember the coupon value for this, the face value was $50,000. The face value is $50,000. But we're talking about these bonds costing 45 or 48. So what's going on there? Well, that is all determined in the market by the supply and demand of the bonds. And when the price of the bond goes up, the yield of the bond will go down. When the price of the bond goes down, the yield of the bond will go up. So we'll figure it out. So again, how are we going to figure out the yield, which is the percentage that you are making on that bond? You're going to take the coupon payment divided by the price paid for the bond. So for example, if the face value is $50,000, the interest rate is 6, and you buy it for $45,000, then we say that the bond is selling for a discount. It's selling for less than the face value, so it's selling for a discount, and the current yield is $3,000, which is the coupon payment, divided by 45, which is the price you pay. So instead of making 6% on this, you're going to make 6.7. And the reason for that is every year when you turn that coupon in, you're going to get the 6%. But when you turn the entire thing in at the end of the term, if the term was 10 years, at the end of 10 years, you turn it in, you're not going to get back what you paid, which was 45. You're going to get back 50. So you're going to be making more money on that. Your yield is going to be higher than if you would have paid face value. So let's do it the other way. Same face value and interest rate, but now you're paying $52,000. So you are buying it at more than face value. So we say that that bond is selling for a premium. We take that same coupon amount, $3,000, divided by what you pay, $52,000. Now your yield is 5.8. So as the price goes up, your yield goes down. And the reason for this, of course, every time you turn the coupon in, you're going to get that 6%. But at the end of 10 years, when you turn in the piece of paper, instead of getting 52 back, which is what you bought it for, you're only going to get 50 back. All right. So just remember that bond prices and yields move inversely. In other words, in the opposite directions. So if the bond price goes up, the bond yield goes down. If the bond price goes down, the bond yield goes up. They're inversely related. So now we're going to quickly hit on how monetary policy is used to close gaps. So we're talking about inflationary gaps or recessionary gaps, which we have already spoken of. So in a recessionary gap situation, we want to increase aggregate demand. So we want to move that entire aggregate demand. And remember, aggregate demand is the demand curve of everybody in the entire economy added together. So it is the demand for every good and service in the economy. So we want people to buy more of everything. So we're going to increase the money supply. We're going to put more money out there. If everyone has more money to spend, they will spend it and aggregate demand will go up. So we're going to be using expansionary monetary policy because we want to expand the economy. And the tools are that the Fed will buy bonds. So this will increase reserves, which will increase the lending capacity of banks. So if they're using open market operation, that's what they're going to do. If they're going to use the discount rate, they could decrease the discount rate or announce a decrease in the federal funds target rate, thereby making it cheaper for banks to borrow from the Fed or from one another. And they also could lower the required reserve ratio, thereby allowing more excess reserves to immediately be created, allowing more loans to be made. So that is the least likely scenario, but those are the three ways that the Fed can use expansionary monetary policy to jumpstart the economy. What if there's an inflationary gap? And what we want to do is we want to slow growth. We want to decrease aggregate demand. So we want to make money harder to get. So that means we want to raise the interest rate. So in that case, we're going to use contractionary monetary policy. So again, going through the three tools, open market operations, the Fed will sell bonds. This will lower reserves and lower the lending capacity. All right. So example, if the required reserve ratio is 10% and the Fed sells $5 billion, sells them. So that means they're taking money away from the banks and giving them these bonds, right? It's an exchange. So they're taking money out of the banking system. So then the maximum change in the money supply is equivalent to the change in excess reserves times 1 over the required reserve ratio. So we're going to plug in what we know and we're going to solve for what we don't know. So we know the change in excess reserves is $5 billion. That's what was taken away from the banking system times 1 over 0.10, which is the required reserve ratio. So that means that if the Fed sells $5 billion in bonds, that will lead to a $50 billion decrease in the money supply if the required reserve ratio is at 10%. That's the open market operation. 2, the discount rate. The Fed could increase the discount rate or announce a higher federal funds target rate, again, making money more expensive, making it harder to get. Or they could increase the required reserve ratio. But again, That's not likely. So that is it for the monetary supply.